Trey Gowdy just went off on camera and leaked the Democrats' dark secret. On Wednesdays, Fox News Channel's The Story, Representative Trey Gowdy went off. He was at a hearing before the House Intelligence Committee earlier in the day. Watch the astounding video below. Gowdy on Jeh Johnson's testimony, Loretta Lynch controversy.
Former Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson becoming the latest top intelligence official to reject the idea that there was some grand scheme between associates of President Trump and the Russians to tip the election. Watch this exchange.
At the time you separated from service in January of 2017, you have seen no evidence that the Russians were successful at changing voter tallies or voter totals. Correct. Had you seen any evidence that Donald Trump or any member of his campaign colluded, conspired, or coordinated with the Russians or anyone else to infiltrate or impact our voter infrastructure?
Not beyond what has been out there open source.
So Jeh Johnson also expressed his displeasure with the DNC after he said they refused to turn their servers over after they were hacked.
I recall very clearly that I was not pleased that we were not in there helping them patch this vulnerability. DHS does not have the power to issue a search warrant or get a search warrant and go in and patch their vulnerabilities over their objections.
Weird, right? Raising the question, what was in there that they perhaps didn't want authorities to see? Why wouldn't they turn over those servers to get some help? Here now, a man behind many of those questions today, House Intelligence Committee member, Congressman Trey Gowdy. Congressman, good evening. Good to have you with us as always.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So what struck you most about your conversation with Jeh Johnson today?
A couple of things. He's in a unique position to answer one of those four tranches, Martha. Again, remember, we're looking at what did Russia do, with whom, if anyone, did they do it? What was the government's response in 2016? And he was the Secretary of DHS at all relevant times, so I was really interested in what the Obama administration knew and when, and what efforts they took to thwart the Russians or to notify potential victims. You just played a clip where we had a victim, the DNC. And not only did they not cooperate with Jeh Johnson, they didn't turn the server over to the FBI. So I think it's a little ironic to now criticize, as some Democrats are, Jeh Johnson and Jim Comey and others for not doing enough in 2016 when you had a really good piece of evidence you didn't bother to turn over.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a head scratcher when you take a look at it from that perspective and you put yourself back there during the election and you remember the emails that were leaked, very embarrassing for John Podesta, Neera Tanden, a number of people, and that was the main thing that Democrats pegged their election loss on. They said, look, because these emails were released, they call it the Russian hacking, which is apparently where it came from, but you have to remember the content of it. It was embarrassing emails that came out. So at that same time, they were asked by the FBI and by DHS, give us your servers, let's figure out who's getting into them and how. Why would they say no? Why would they not want to cooperate with that investigation?
Oh, well, let me hazard a wild guess that there may be something else on that server they didn't want law enforcement to see. I mean, that's where you start. I don't like speculating, but I have dealt in the past with victims who would not cooperate with investigations. And typically the reason is there's something else you don't want law enforcement to see. There is no reason to not allow DHS to patch or fix a vulnerability in the DNC system. And heavens knows there's no reason to not give the world's premier law enforcement agency, which is the FBI, the evidence they may need to stop another attack from hurting someone else.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be that the words email server were somewhat toxic at that moment. If everyone remembers the political environment that was going on, and Hillary Clinton's email server was all the talk at that point. So maybe, you know, the idea that someone wanted their server made them proprietary over that server. I want to get you into something else before we run out of time, and that's Loretta Lynch, because we've now learned that based on Jim Comey's testimony, he opened sort of, you know, in a new Pandora's box of her influence on the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. What do you want to question her about, and what's the process with regards to her now?
Well, Martha, I don't know that House Intel would be the proper venue for those questions to take place. It may be House or Senate Judiciary. I am always interested when any person we hire to work for that blindfolded woman holding a set of scales, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, does anything to put his or her finger on the scale. And if it is accurate that she asked Director Comey and others to refer to the investigation as a matter and not an investigation, that is the Attorney General putting her finger on the scale and doing so for political reasons, and that's what undercuts your viewers' confidence in the justice system.
So James Comey said that that made him queasy and that he felt that she might have a conflict of interest, and that's why he took over the investigation. Would you want him to come back and testify more on that?
I would now, in fairness to Director Comey, he has been before House Intel in a closed-door setting, and he did extrapolate more on that and other reasons, frankly, that he appropriated the decision to himself. But to the extent that my Democrat friends want all of this aired in public, even some of it which maybe shouldn't be aired in public for classification reasons, I would love to hear her explanation of why she wanted to call an investigation a matter. I did it for 2 decades. We never referred to it as matter. So I don't know what her point was, although I think I do know what her objective was.
Potentially political. So we'll see where that goes. Trey Gowdy, thank you very much. Good to see you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
McCollum, what struck you most about the conversation with Jay Gowdy today? I'm not going to repeat what was said, but share this if you want the DNC to be investigated. There is nothing here that is very suspicious at work here. Absolutely. We know they're corrupt. We know they're corrupt. And they're going to get to the bottom of this now that Trey Gowdy's there. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.